Next on our cast list is Cooper Holmes. Cooper is unique in the cast in that he is the only one of us not trained as an actor. He is a Chapman graduate, but he is a graduate of the creative writing school at Chapman University. Cooper's connection in that case to me is that he is my best friend. We have been best friends since college and ever after, and I knew that I wanted him in the project somehow. Cooper is not, by the way, adverse to performance. He actually went to a performing arts high school, so he's got he's got that background. He did acting in high school. He just wants to focus on writing, and in fact now he's even been taking some improv classes. So this is still a part of his life. In fact, performance is in the blood for Cooper Holmes because he is the son of Clint Holmes. It's a notable name in the Vegas singers and such like that. So I mean, he is of performance. So Cooper is not adverse to that. But yeah, it's not something that he's been focusing on. It certainly wasn't something he was trained in school like the rest of us. But I knew he was gonna. I knew I wanted him in this, and when I realized that this was a part that I could have him do, I got very excited. I was like, ooh, that's great. Because Meekins is an odd character. Mike Meekins is a character that I wasn't really sure what I was going to do with this guy. This is another one of those very strange Ace Attorney creations. And even within the world of Ace Attorney, Meekins is kind of stands out as being bizarre. So that was one where I was so unsure that what I was going to do with this character that I thought this might even have to be one that I do. But when I thought Cooper for the role, I was like, bang, there it is, perfect. So that was great. That made me very happy when I realized that this was a role that Cooper could do, and there he is. That's Cooper's role in it. The biggest trick about getting Cooper in this project, in this dub, was that Cooper lives in Las Vegas. That is where he lives, where he still lives, and I live in Southern California. Now that is not a untraversable distance when it comes to Vegas to Southern California. It's only about 4.5 hours. But it is a distance, especially in terms of if you're driving from the Southern California area, particularly if you're an hour east from LA, like I am. It's basically just a straight shot on the 15 freeway, which is nice except for the fact that it's a straight shot through a crapload of desert. I don't know if anybody listening has ever made that journey. If you're from Southern California, you probably do know that particular drive from Southern California to Vegas. That is a harsh drive, and you better be confident in your car. And I was not confident in my car when I was doing this project. I actually have a better car now that I'm much more confident in driving to Vegas, and I'll probably be visiting him soon, in fact, in this vehicle. But the car I was in at the time was a piece of shit. Plain and simple, it was an 87 Nissan Maxima that, you don't want to be driving a car that's just 4 years younger than you. That car is gone now, thankfully. I'm now driving a better car. But that was part of the reason I was concerned about the scheduling for this, but thankfully Cooper had a trip planned out to Southern California at the time, and so we just fitted around that. He came down, he stayed with me and my folks when he came down, so that made it fairly simple. It was always going to be that he would end up staying with us, and so we just at one point stepped into another room for a few hours and knocked out this role. Meekins is easily the smallest of the main character roles, so it wasn't even that much material to do. We just have to rock through really his one little scene in the very beginning with Edgeworth, his one questioning scene with Phoenix in the detention center, and then his bit of stuff in the trial scene. And apart from he easily had the shortest main role, so that was great. But what that meant was I maybe directed his session a little bit more than I was directing the others, because I was not certain that he would be able to do a retake session because of where he lived. And so I was thinking, I may want to get as much of this definitely in the can with no questions asked in this one shot, because I may not get another shot. And when I did, and when I ended up going over the dialogue with Cooper after the fact, when I was doing the after first pass editing, indeed, there was only 4 lines. There were only 4 lines that I thought like merited some retaking, but had I not been given the opportunity to retake, I would have been okay with not retaking them. There would have been just a couple of discrepancies here and there, maybe a couple of lines that didn't get the exact shading I would have liked, but ultimately I could have lived with what we had, and that was fine. But ultimately he did come down in time. Actually, while I was putting out the videos, his character had premiered in that early scene with Edgeworth, but he did end up visiting while I was doing the videos for the first trial day. So I did have the time, because there were no retake lines from that first scene with Edgeworth. There was everything from the detention scene after. So there was nothing that went out that didn't get retaken. So just those 4 lines I was able to retake, as he did have another visit after the fact. So that retake session ended up being, that small little retake session, just 4 lines, ended up being the last with another actor thing recorded for Phoenix Wright the dub. So that was so there's significance there. But otherwise, yeah, I would have been fine with going without them. But thankfully, we were able to fit that in. As far as his performance goes, I mean, Meekins again is such a weird character, and Cooper Cooper can be so goofy inherently. He can be a very weird man, and he knows how to be goofy. We're 2 of the nerdiest people that we know. I think there's no question about it. He is the comic book nerd. I am the animation nerd. So we tend to bond over comic book animation things, which is particularly how we kind of got started to cement our friendship early in college, was through Justice League, the show Justice League. Me telling him animation stuff, like the production side of things, and him telling me all sorts of stuff that I never would have known about DC lore, things like that. So he knows how to be weird. And Meekins is a great canvas for being weird, and I just gave him a nice free license to go quite goofy, and we found some of the goofiest things for Meekins to do and say in these moments, and it's a marvelously over-the-top performance, which is exactly what Meekins needs. I am glad that you don't really get too much of his ethnicity in it. Cooper is African American, but he doesn't really come across as African American, I think, in this role. Most people actually, when I remember some people responded to Meekins' performance when they started listening to him, saying, "Oh, it sounds very Woody Allen-ish," and that's just confirms for me what I've always said. I've always called him the most Jewish black man I know, which is a hilarious thing that he cannot counteract, because I am definitely not the blackest Jewish guy he knows. It doesn't go back the other way. So that just confirms that he's a total Jew as far as I'm concerned. and so that was great that he totally, that nasally high-strung quality came out so marvelously for Mike Meekins. So that was fantastic. I'm very happy to have gotten Cooper into the cast in general, and also to have cast him in the role that was definitely the right role for him. So thank you so much, Cooper. I mean, I guess I don't really need to thank Cooper, because I know things about Cooper that the rest of the world he doesn't want the rest of the world to know. So he owes me. So there, I don't have to thank you, Cooper. He knows things about me too. I'm screwed. Our next cast member is Eric Satterberg. Eric is another 05, as I mentioned. He is a Chapman Theater grad. Eric is an actor, again, not a lot of voiceover experience. I know he wants to get more into it. We've actually been talking about that. I've been giving some advice on getting a demo done. But otherwise, right now, he's actually doing quite a good job getting commercial work. So yay for Eric. I'm so happy to see him. Like, he's been posting on Facebook all these YouTube links to another commercial that he's done. So that's fantastic. So that's one of the things that he's been working on right now. Eric is an actor that we're all in the same classes together throughout the entirety of college, so I know him fairly well. When it came to roles in Phoenix Wright, there were some actors I didn't think of immediately, or I didn't think I could get them, or anything like that. So went through a few trial goes with other people before, or trying to get other. There was nobody that I got into the booth that I recorded and then didn't use them in terms of in terms of trying to get other people to play certain roles. There was nothing like that, but it was just in terms of like, once they were willing to do it, they did it. But it did take a couple of tries with a few of the roles. But when it came to Gumshoe, I knew from day one that I wanted Eric Satterberg. I didn't even, not only did I not even call anybody else, I didn't even think of anybody else. I thought, okay, if I'm doing Gumshoe, if I got to cast Gumshoe, it's got to be Eric Satterberg. I knew it needed to be Eric because Eric is one of the funniest actors I know, just flat out. He does a lot of great dramatic stuff. He'd probably be stretching his dramatic bona fides more these days than he has been his comedic side, but he is truly one of the funniest actors that I have ever worked with. We did a production of Midsummer Night's Dream together in college, and he played Bottom, and he he was just so on point as Bottom. Truly one of the funniest performances I've ever seen. I had to bite my tongue throughout that entire show, and so I knew that giving him the role of Gumshoe would be perfect because Gumshoe has to be such a marvelously hilarious character because he's so funny already, and you just need somebody who's going to plus that, and so and really kind of get at what makes Gumshoe such a hilarious character. I did pitch Eric down. Eric is pitched down because Eric is not, I think, as physically big as the game portrays Gumshoe to be. Gumshoe looks like maybe he's a little bit meatier as a guy. Eric's a bit smaller. So I wanted Gumshoe to sound at least a little bit deeper, a little bit more authoritative. He's also, I guess, a little bit older. I guess the implication of Gumshoe is that maybe he's in his mid-30s, whereas Eric is like me in our late 20s. So I just wanted to give a little bit more girth to Eric's voice, and was able to do that via pitch. But otherwise, it's pretty much Eric's style of performance, and he just did a fantastic job. There's that half scroungy element to Gumshoe, and there's that half authoritative element to Gumshoe. That Eric was able to marry those two qualities really nicely as a guy who maybe wants to be an authority figure but really isn't. He's just too he's too desperate a character to have that. And so that was just a lot of fun to watch. It was so much fun to work with Eric on this character because he had hilarious instincts, and every single time with Gumshoe, a character like Gumshoe in particular, I wanted to see what the actor was going to do with it. I kind of didn't want to direct this one too intensely. Because some characters, they're more serious, so you really need to give them a lot of context. Gumshoe doesn't even have as crucial a role in the story as he sometimes does in other cases. Because Gumshoe is one of the regulars of the series, and those who play the game know that more often than not, Gumshoe is like the only cop on the scene. He's the one managing the crime scenes, and so inevitably he's the one that gets called in to set the scene in court. And Gumshoe doesn't even get that this time. That's Angel Star this time. Angel Star is the one who gets to set the scene. So Gumshoe never gets on the witness stand. And so he's purely just either expository, goofy stuff like the steak lunch scene, which still makes me laugh. And then also just being kind of Edgeworth's main booster, main cheerleader. Those are the three real roles that Gumshoe provides in Rise from the Ashes. And so that was something that it gave a lot of leeway for Eric to kind of play around with the performance and find these sideways ways of looking at things that made the character just so funny. And he did a fantastic job with it. I mean, I'm selling everybody in these commentaries, but suffice to say, I was so entertained just watching all these actors at work that it was all up to me as the director and editor not to screw it up, because I thought everybody just did such a fantastic job, and Eric is one of the perfect examples of that, where it's like, okay, get out of the way, tell him what he needs to do for the story to work, and otherwise just step back and let him go. And it was a good way of working when it comes to a character like Gumshoe, because there are line readings that Eric does for Gumshoe that I would never have come up with those. I would never have directed him towards them, but they're so the right readings, and that was the way that needed to be. And so he did that just fantastic. So thank you so much to Eric for just kicking ass on this project. Oh, I should also point out that Eric, maybe more than anybody else in the cast, Eric was maybe the biggest cheerleader of this project. He was the one who was, when I told him that I was doing this, he was really happy to find out that I was doing this project, and he was very, very much kind of, like cheering me on for having the interest in doing this kind of dub project. And he's been the one member of the cast who in particular has kind of been like, okay, Alex, so what are we doing next? What are we doing next? I'll talk a little bit more about the future when I get to that part of the commentary. I'm saving that for the last commentary. But, it was awesome that he was so gung-ho about this project the second he heard about it. To that degree that Gumshoe was Edgeworth's cheerleader, Eric was, I guess, kind of my cheerleader for Phoenix Wright Rise from the Ashes. So Eric, not only thank you so much for your amazing work as Gumshoe, but thank you so much for making me feel like this is something worth doing and being up for anything. You are one of my best friends, and I will definitely want to work with you on anything ever if we can ever put it together again.